Yes, people, welcome back to Let's Talk Premier League. We're here for the Arsenal show. Obviously, it's a day later with the whole mess that was the Super League. But I'm joined by Gooner Express. How are we doing, mate?
I'm doing good.
Well, better than the last couple of days. That's for sure. But there really is only one place to start, and that is the Super League. Obviously, I know your thoughts and all of that, but from an Arsenal perspective, what have you made over the last couple of days? Like, because there's some Arsenal fans that have wanted it because they were like, we'll be competitive, lots of money, and then there's obviously the ones that are like, no, I absolutely don't want this. This isn't what we're about.
Yeah, I think pretty much no matter what way you thought of it, whether you wanted it or not, the main point is that it was all due to greed. And pretty much I think everything in football now is greed, but especially Stan Kroenke. I mean, there's quotes of this guy a few years ago saying that he bought his stake in Arsenal not to win a trophy. So for me, he bought this club to play in the Super League and to make the money from the Super League. Now that isn't happening, I highly expect him to sell the club because he has no need for it anymore. His whole point was to make the Super League, be a part of it, make the money from it, and then most likely to reinvest it in his American teams. Now that he can't do that, what use does he have for Arsenal? So I'm hoping, and I think a lot of Arsenal fans are hoping, and obviously we're putting a lot of pressure on that Kroenke needs to go. So does his son Josh, and so do the likes of Vinay, who are the chairmans, the CEOs, and all these kind of positions. They've been ruining our club for years. They're a disease, you could say. And for me, they are the worst owners in the Premier League. So the fans need to keep doing what we're doing, and I think we need to do more because right now we're not doing enough to get rid of them. But I think the only positive I take away from this Super League stuff is the fact that the likes of the Glazers, the likes of the FSG from Liverpool, and the Kroenkes are most likely going to leave, and they need to go. These owners are the worst owners you can ask for, and they're ruining football.
Yeah. Do you think it's down to obviously how do I put it? So do you think the issues are purely Kroenke, or is it just a whole lot? Because I know that is it Vinay had a meeting with the players, and apparently the players were fuming. Arteta was fuming. I mean, you don't have to like Arteta or not, but they left him in the lurch over all of this, and it's not really been the greatest way of handling it, was it?
No, but it's expected. This is what our club does. Every single other club that was involved, their players were made aware. Ours weren't. Ours were left in the dark. And it just shows our club. A lot of fans say that we used to be a classy club and this and that, and we did. That classiness and that respect for everybody is gone. There is no respect and classiness about Arsenal Football Club anymore. It's all about greed. It's all about wanting what's best for money. That's it. And I've just seen a tweet now saying that Vinay has been asked to step down. And it's the cover-up story. We're getting the cover-up story. Let's throw Vinay to the Wolves. Let's throw the Balogun deal at us because they're now trying to say that Balogun's going to sign. And it's all just a cover-up. And I think Arsenal fans of maybe 2-3 years ago would have accepted it. We'd have taken the bait and we'd have forgiven them. I don't think that's going to happen anymore. I think that the fans realised how much power we actually have over these kind of things, and I think the fans will hopefully keep the pressure on. But I blame Kroenke completely. I don't think Arteta's a great manager. I don't think Edu's the best at his job. I don't think Vinay's the best at his job. But who hires them all? It's the Kroenkes. It's Stan Kroenke and his son Josh. And I think it's the same thing with Man United. Their main issue was Woodman. Sorry.
Woodward, yeah.
Without Woodward, who hired Woodward? The Glazers. So it all links back to these American owners who are here for the money. And I mean, I think that's the bottom line of it. That the Kroenkes are definitely the main cause of Arsenal's downfall.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. And big up to Professor in the chat as well, evening to yourself. But do you expect to see most of the American owners, especially from the top six, just walk away now? Do you expect them to sell up and go? Because as you said a minute ago, there's nothing keeping them.
I think the Glazers definitely. We've obviously seen this because the Man United's, shares and that kind of information is public, so we can see how much their stock's dropping, and it's dropping by almost $1, which for them is massive. So I think the Glazers are going to leave, but Kroenke, I think, it's different. Arsenal shares are on private, so we can't actually see how bad it's going. And again, we're seeing it already. The likes of Vinay being thrown at the Wolves. And this is what I'm saying. The Glazers writ an apology letter. Whether we actually think they writ it or not, we don't know. But it's titled under their name. The FSG owner for Liverpool did a video. Yes, it was in his $30 million mansion, whatever else, but he did a video apologising. It still means nothing to me. But the fact that Kroenke hasn't even done anything remotely similar, it just shows how bad he is. It just shows that he does not care for the fans, and all he sees us as is customers. And what I hope happens here is the fans of his American clubs see how he's treating Arsenal. We have 40 million worldwide fans, and I'm pretty sure we have more fans than the Rams and all these other clubs that he owns. So I hope that they see this and realise that he could do this to any of them at any point, so that he, in a sense, can't own sports clubs anymore. He should be banned, because this is not how you run any sort of sports club. And we've seen what Vince McMahon said a few years ago. The way he treated the Nuggets, which I think is his basketball team, Vince McMahon said he should be arrested for impersonating a good businessman. Like, what else needs to be said?
Yeah, I mean, when Vince McMahon is calling you out, shit's gone wrong. But obviously, you mentioned it. It's interesting that you mentioned the apologies. Obviously, Henry did a video. Joel Glazer did a letter to the fans. Obviously, it's empty. They're empty words. They mean nothing, right? Because there's no way these owners are sorry. What they're sorry is that they're sorry we were angry. That's what they're sorry about. They're not sorry at what they did. They're sorry that we got so angry that we stopped them from doing it. That's why they're sorry. In a way of sorry, I got caught in a way. But Arsenal and Kroenke, he didn't do that. I mean, there was a letter. I mean, it was from your board of directors, which obviously Kroenke's on. Let's not get that wrong. Kroenke is obviously on the board of directors. But do you think he would have been able to stay and there wouldn't have been this outrage if he had put his name at the bottom? So if Stan Kroenke had sort of finished the letter, Stan Kroenke, and took responsibility?
No. I think it would have been nice to see it. It still wouldn't have changed anything in, I think, a lot of Arsenal fans' eyes, and I hope it wouldn't. But it just again shows him all he has to do is put his name at the bottom of it. He doesn't even have to write the letter. He just has to put his name at the bottom of it, and he doesn't even have the decency to do that. That, for me, is what the Glazers did. They got some random guy to write him an apology letter, the name in the bottom. It means something. He can't even do that. He doesn't even have the decency to put his name at the bottom of an apology letter. And again, Arsenal fans have been crying about this for 15 years. Ever since he took over, that he's an awful owner and this and that. And we were told by rival fans that he isn't that bad. We're overreacting, this and that. What else needs to be said now? He has proven in stone cold facts that he is the worst Premier League owner. I'd even possibly argue one of the worst in history, because he does not care.
I'd say the only one that's worse than him is Mike Ashley. He is the only one that I can think of that's worse. I know, obviously, if we're talking historically, Portsmouth have had some shockers as well. But now, Stan Kroenke is definitely up there as one of the worst. I would completely agree with that. How do you see this moving forward then? Do you think he'll sell up before the next season? I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, again, if Vinay's likely to be sacked, which is what they're saying now, and that he's been told now, I'm seeing another tweet saying he's been told to step down from the Premier League committee, so he's probably going to be gone within the next 2 days. And again, it's a cover-up story. But for me, the only way the fans get rid of Kroenke isn't by protest, and isn't by doing this and that. It's by not buying anything. And I've seen a few YouTubers that are quite large saying things like, it doesn't make a difference, they've already got the shirt deals, this and that. It does. There was a stat from, I think it was 2008 to 2017, that Arsenal were 100% financed via the product that we sell. So no owner finances, nothing else, only by product finances. We're the only team in the Premier League to first off not have any owner finances involved in our club, and also to be only 100% financed by the product. By that stat, if we don't buy the product, so we don't, we don't buy the season tickets, we don't go back to games, we don't buy kits, we don't buy merch, he will have to leave because he won't be making money. So for me, that's what we do. The protests will help, but is he actually going to see the protests? No. He'll be chilling in his pool in his LA mansion or something, or in his New York apartment, and he won't even care. So for me, the only way we do this now is to hit his money. That's all he cares about. So hit his money.
Yeah, it's the same with UEFA. This is essentially how we stopped the Super League. We'll just hit them in their pockets. You saw Boris going, well, I'll just start dropping legislative bombs on this. You are obviously being kicked out of the Premier League. We hit them where it hurts, and that's their money. And you are right, obviously, in terms of if you ever want to make a stand, just don't buy anything. Don't go buy the shirts. Don't go buy the merch, because at the end of the day, all you're doing is feeding into their pockets. You're lining their pockets, and until you've got what you want, just don't do it. Because look, the way I would also do it is don't buy season tickets. Don't buy tickets next season. Right? We're all going to be allowed in the stadiums, and of course you want to go and support your club, but just don't do it. Just don't buy anything. Let Stan Kroenke see the Emirates for a Premier League game where every other club is full. See the Emirates empty. Make the players and the staff just sit in an empty Emirates with just the away fans there. Just do that, because at least then you're proving and you're making that very much clear to Kroenke.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it worked with Emery to a certain extent. I mean, Emery was sacked mainly down to the fact that he lost the dressing room. But
yeah,
the final game that he managed was the Frankfurt game. And I actually think we lost that in the Europa League. The stadium was half empty. And people will banter and say, oh, it always is this and that. But it isn't. The Emirates is mostly full. And I mean, the way that stadium was just purely empty. And I mean, yeah, you can argue it's a Thursday night Europa League game. No one cared. But it was Frankfurt. You know, it was a good game to watch. And no one was there. There was barely anybody there. So I think that was the final straw for the owners. Seeing that put them over the edge. So why did we do it again and again and again until they leave? Don't go to the Emirates. Don't, again, like you said, don't buy the season tickets. That's where most of the money comes from. Arsenal season tickets cost about, I think it's £2,000-3,000 a year, which is one of them. I think that's the highest price season ticket in the Premier League. If we don't buy them, how are they getting the money?
Yeah, no, I agree. Prime saying I may banter Arsenal a lot, but Kroenke out. I want Kroenke out, Glazers out, FSG out, Levy out. Less so Roman, because I don't think Roman really wanted to do this. His was just, I wouldn't even say scared. I think it was just, I can make a quick buck out of this, but I'm not. He wasn't solely invested into it like them 3 or 4. And then the same with whatever they are in City, whatever they're called. Cannot remember them.
Sheikh Mansour.
That's one, Sheikh Mansour. Again, I don't know why he felt the need to do it apart from selfish, because he views it as, oh, well, I'm dining with the big boys now. I'm sat around that table. To which obviously he's not at the moment, because they haven't achieved anything in Europe. I mean, that will change. I have no doubt. But obviously we need to move away from a Super League at some point in our lives. I mean, this guy gets spoken about for years now. There's no doubt about that. But moving on to some football talk. Obviously, I can't even remember the week of Fulham at the weekend. You drew 1-1. It wasn't the greatest game. Do you blame Arteta, or are you blaming the players? Because I know Sulz has really gone on a sort of mad one recently in terms of you can't blame Arteta for our players not taking their chances. They're not finishing. It's the players' fault. He firmly at the moment is blaming the players. Are you on a similar line to that, or do you blame Arteta?
It's It's a difficult one because obviously you can be a great manager and you can do everything you can do, but with a crap set of players, what can you do? And we've seen that. I think the likes of Scott Parker and Graham Potter are the greatest examples. They're great managers. They do everything right. It's just the players aren't good enough. But when I watched that Fulham team, and by the way, they were awful in that match. But when I watched, even Brighton, I see something in that manager. I see the tactics. I see what they're trying to do, and the players just aren't good enough. When it comes to Arsenal, the players just aren't good enough. But I don't see what we're trying to do at the same time. All we're doing is pinging in crosses to nobody. All we're doing is going down one side of the pitch, which never works. All we're doing is passing backwards and sideways all the time. And that's not solely down to the players, because we saw it under Unai Emery that we can attack, we can play great attacking football. Yes, we leave ourselves exposed for goals, but that's kind of how attacking football works if you don't have a good defence, and we don't have a good defence. For me, that's a common myth of Arsenal Football Club. Arteta hasn't improved just defensively, he's just playing more defensively. So what we're doing is conceding less goals but scoring less. So no, I don't think he's a good manager. I do blame him for some of it. I also blame the players as well. But I think the Super League has begun to open a bit more up to me. I see the Arteta managerial signing as, let's just get someone really cheap who can keep us in the Premier League, but we don't care where we finish. Because why would they care where we finish? They're going to be in the Super League anyway. So I think for Kroenke especially, it was get a cheap manager who's just going to keep us in the Premier League until the Super League opens up. So I don't see Arteta staying here much longer, especially if the Kroenkes leave. There's no way a new manager can come in. A new owner. The likes of Dangote, if he comes in next week, he's going to look at one thing. He's going to look at the performance stats of Mikel Arteta. The performance stats of Mikel Arteta are not great. Mourinho was sacked, and I think his average points per game were 1.6. Emery's were 1.7, and he was sacked. Arteta has 1.4 points average per game. He's still in a job. So these owners are going to look at stats like that. They're going to say he's not good enough, and they're going to sack him. So you can't put that solely down to the players. If his managerial stats aren't good and the players are that bad, why are we then saying that we deserve to be top four? Why are the fans then complaining that we're 9th and 10th? Because for me, I expect us to be at least top 6 because I think the players are good enough to be there. I think right now they're not playing good enough, and I think that is down to the manager as well.
Yeah. If Arteta was to win you the Europa League this year, which would, in theory, achieve you Champions League football, would you give him another chance, or are you just done with this shit?
No, I've said it. I'll be happy with the Europa League win. I'm going to celebrate. I'm going to praise him for doing it because I'm not, I don't hate him. I just don't appreciate him as a manager. But before the Super League thing, I said if he wins the Europa League, I'll give him till Christmas, in which I'll reevaluate it. And if he's doing well, I'll let him be. But if he's still doing crap, I still want him out. Now that I do genuinely think we're getting new owners who I think or hopefully will have more ambition, I want him gone no matter what he does, because he's not good enough. With new owners who are willing to spend big money on a Carlo Ancelotti or an Antonio Conte or someone like that, I would rather that than stick with Arteta, no matter what he does. And there's some fans saying that if he wins the Europa League, he'll go down as a legendary manager for Arsenal Football Club. He won't. I'm sorry, he won't, because you can't compare Mikel Arteta, who finished 9th or however, wherever we're going to finish, to Arsene Wenger and Herbert Chapman. I don't think you'll be allowed to compare them to that, because that's an absolute mockery to Wenger and Chapman. To compare Mikel Arteta to them, it's a joke.
The word legend is bounced around the place far too loosely these days. I reserve legends for probably 5 managers in the Premier League of all time. I don't think you can. Let's work through it. You got Fergie. You could say Wenger, Jose.
I think Pep will most likely go in there when he begins to win things.
Yeah, Clough, Brian Clough, and maybe one of the Liverpool managers from the 80s. There's if you think about it, there's not many legends. Right? There's some very good managers, the likes of Carlo Ancelotti and all of that, but it's very rare that you find a pure legend. Like that would be, in theory, like United fans praising Ollie and calling him a legend for winning the Europa League. Like that's disrespectful to Fergie and to Sir Matt Busby. So to call Arteta a legend after a Europa League victory would be strange. But who would you get? Who would you want to see replace Arteta at Arsenal?
I think realistically, what we do under Kroenke is probably Rafa Benitez, because he will most likely be quite cheap. He's a good manager. He can do something with us. But again, if we get a good owner, and I see a lot of people saying they want Dangote, I would take him, but I'd rather get one of the princes, the likes of a Sheikh Mansour or the likes of the prince that was linked with Newcastle, because the princes are mega rich, but they also don't care about the business side. They all say it, we don't care about the business. We care about the football. We enjoy football. We want to prevail in it. So I'd rather have one of those guys, because I know that we're assured to have an ambitious owner who wants to win trophies. So say we got a prince, and who wants to win trophies. I want the top managers. I want the best we can get, whether that be Carlo Ancelotti, whether that be even, and this is mad saying this, going and looking at someone like a Pep. Maybe we can't get him, but that kind of manager, if we can convince them to move, why not? You might as well, if you don't inquire about it, you don't ever get an answer. So, but yeah, Carlo Ancelotti would be my one, because I love that guy. I think he's one of the best managers in world football. And the stuff he's doing with Everton is pretty mad.
Would you take Nagelsmann, or do you think it's too soon for him to take that jumper? Look, I know Arsenal are mid-table at the moment, but in theory, that pressure of a big club, obviously, if you had new owners, it would transform you. But do you think a Nagelsmann, or do you think he needs to go to like a Tottenham or a Leicester just to learn the trade? Because the Premier League is the most ruthless competition there is, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I think, again, I'm not trying to say Arsenal are a big club or anything, because right now we're not. But in terms of taking a risk, I think Nagelsmann is a big risk, because Leipzig they're a great team. But they have so many negatives about them. Their defence is quite poor. They struggle going forward here and there. And I think that, him going to a smaller club like a Tottenham would be better. See what you can do there. Or, he's been linked with the Bayern Munich job. I don't see Bayern Munich getting him, personally. I don't think they take the risk either. Obviously, they did take the risk of Hansi Flick, but you don't know. But yeah, smaller club, someone like a Tottenham, or maybe like a West Ham, maybe, if they sack David Moyes, someone along those lines. But yeah, I wouldn't particularly take him right now.
It is a risk, that's for sure. Everyone watching, please smash the like button, subscribe to the channel with notifications on, get your comments in as well. Who would you replace Mikel Arteta with if you were the owner of Arsenal? That's what I want to hear from you guys today. But moving on from Arteta, I've seen in the media that apparently Arsenal are looking at Iheanacho. Obviously, didn't really hit it off at City. Didn't hit it off until recently at Leicester. Would you want an Iheanacho at Arsenal, or do you think you can do better?
No, I don't want Iheanacho anywhere near the Arsenal. Obviously, he's done pretty well this season, got player of the month, this and that. But no, let's be honest. The guy at City was a decent player. When he went to Leicester originally, he was crap. And I think the only reason he's particularly playing well this season is because Leicester are looking at the likes of an Hudson-Odoi, they're looking at Ivan Toney to replace him. And I think he's realised this and said, okay, I need to step my game up. And I think Rob Holding has done the exact same thing. He signed a new contract, but he was at risk of being sold. So he was forced to play well. And he has done. So, I don't think he's good enough to play for Arsenal. If he can't play for Manchester City, he's not good enough to play for Arsenal. He struggles to play for Leicester in certain extents, and we're meant to be a bigger club than them. So, no, I would not take Iheanacho.
Yeah, I've seen this so many times. It's a purple patch. Every player goes through these purple patches. But yeah, it's a mad one. Velvet Swan saying, I swear Edouard is replacing Vardy. Well, look, Leicester do have to replace Vardy, but I think with Iheanacho, he's realised that Vardy's going or will be going within the next couple of years. But then are they going to let Iheanacho have that number 9? Are they going to allow Iheanacho to be leading the line at Leicester, or are they going to bring someone in? That's probably why you're seeing Iheanacho put in these mega performances, especially towards the end of the season. When are these deals going to be done? At the end of the season in the summer window. So the players are. If you're in fear for your job or you think you're going to get sacked, you perform better, don't you? 9 out of 10 times you do. It's the same with players. You when you're under pressure, you perform that bit better because you're like, no, I want this, and it shows a lot as a person if you're doing that. Jack saying Arsenal need Mbappe cutting in from the left on Henry 2.0. I mean, you're definitely taking Mbappe. It's just would an Mbappe go to Arsenal is the big question, really.
Yeah, no, he isn't. Not right now, anyway.
I'd be in utter shock if Mbappe turned up at Arsenal. I don't know what I'd do because obviously on this channel in the summer we'll be covering all these transfer stories. And my God, if I had to do a story, if I had to go get like Gooner and Sulz to come and do a show where I've just seen that Mbappe signed for Arsenal, I'm gonna be speechless. I'm not gonna know what to say. I'm not gonna know what to ask. But which striker would you get them if you couldn't get Iheanacho? Because clearly a number 9 is what Arsenal are lacking. So who would you go get?
Well, in terms of starting strikers, we've already got Martinelli, so he's the one for me. He can start up front every game. Second strikers, you've still got the likes of Balogun. I don't see Aubameyang leaving, even though I would sell him. So we do have 3 strikers already, but if I had to go buy a new one, I'd probably look. Obviously, Ivan Toney from the Championship's a great option. He's a great player. He's scored loads of goals for Brentford. His conversion rate's mad as well. But I'd also look at somebody like a Boadu from AZ Alkmaar. He's done quite well this season. And I'd just look for someone younger who Martinelli can learn. No, I would not get Ollie Watkins. I see a lot of people saying they get Ollie Watkins, but without Grealish, how good is he? You know, when Grealish wasn't there, when he was injured, how good was Watkins? He wasn't doing much. So I think he's a good player, but he needs that Grealish kind of player to support him, and we don't have that right now.
Yeah, no, I hear that. Jock saying, what about Jovic out in the cold of Real Madrid, young and gifted? Would you look at him or do you not know much about him?
No, I know a lot about Jovic, especially from his first season in Frankfurt when he went to Real Madrid the season after. I mean, I think he's a one-club wonder where he's so good for a certain club, every other club he goes to, he can't perform. And we started with Real Madrid. They wanted him to replace Benzema. He kept dropping him to the bench. So I think he is just a one-club wonder. He's a great talent, but do I think he's a good talent outside of Frankfurt? Not really.
Yeah. That's a red card each now. Aston Villa have just had Matty Cash sent off. Obviously, John Stone sent off in the first half. It's 1-1 on the red cards. It's 2-1 to City. Double yellow for that was Matty Cash, you are an idiot. I don't know if you're watching the game, but he's an idiot. I say you're on a yellow card already, and you just take out a player. You don't get the ball, you just take out a player. Like, I swear some players don't have a brain cell. I suppose that's why he's at Aston Villa, because it's that experience, isn't it? It's that know-how. So it's currently obviously City winning. In the group chat I'm in, the United fans, when Villa went in front, they were like 21 is coming, and then Man City turned it around. So FYI for people watching, don't say stuff until it's happened. It's always best. Gabriel, my epic is destroy you. What?
I have no idea.
I have absolutely no. Gabriel, he plays for Arsenal.
Yeah, I don't know what he's
You're,
particularly on about.
I have no idea who. I don't know if that means you or that's a name of a player. I'm not sure who that is. Um, uh, Bellotti from Torino, another good option for Arsenal. I mean, I don't know much about European football, so these names are a bit.
Well, I mean, I don't know much about Serie A, to be honest, but I know Bellotti was quite highly thought of maybe 1 or 2 years ago, but Torino aren't doing too well right now. I think they're near the relegation zone. So whether that's his fault, whether that, he's getting no support, but if you're in the relegation zone, you can't be that good. You'd be keeping... we've seen it with certain clubs. One player can keep you out of those areas, and obviously Bellotti's not doing that, so I wouldn't take that risk.
Yeah. Velverswan, he became owner of Arsenal last night in the group chat, or in the chat. As Arsenal's new owner, I'm signing En-Nesyri from Sevilla.
Yeah, he's a good player again. He's a good player, but I think he's another one of those where he's had 1 season. So I'd give him 1 more season at Sevilla. If he's still hitting the same numbers, then 100%, because he's doing really well this season.
Yeah. And Velverswan saying, are you talking about Arsenal's previous Gabriel? I mean,
we've had too many Gabriels.
Any of them any good? I mean, the one you've got right now isn't too bad.
We obviously got Gabriel Martinelli, if you want to count him. But Gabriel Magalhaes, I rate him, but not as highly as I think a lot of Arsenal fans do. I think he's got a long way to go, like a long way, because he's too rash. He's a bit clumsy. And I think without David Luiz, he looks worse. And even with David Luiz, he doesn't have a great game. So he's got a long way to go. But I think he can definitely be... I don't think he's going to be a great centre-back, but maybe a good backup centre-back is what I think he can hit. Maybe.
Yeah. Big up to Gabriel in the chat. But moving on, Joe Wilock is obviously on loan at Newcastle. Obviously, he's having a fairly good game, a good season. So Arsenal fans, as normal, bigging him up, saying he's going to come back and smash the Premier League into smithereens. What's your thoughts on Joe Wilock, and do you think it's another sort of Lingard situation where you sent him out on loan to boost up his value and then to sell him in the summer, or do you think he can come in and make an impact?
Joe Willock's a weird one. He was never really thought of from a young age, but he kind of came in and did quite well. So I think a lot of Arsenal fans love to gas up young players. And I think it's a good thing, because we do have a great academy. We do bring in a lot of great young players, but I think we've seen the likes of Cesc Fabregas, we've seen the likes of Saka, and all these kind of players come through and rip it up. And I think that we expect too much of our young players. We expect them all to do that. Joe Wilock, for me, is not one of those. I think under Emery, he was getting a tune out of him, but I don't think he's a great footballer. I think his decision-making is quite poor. And he's doing great at Newcastle. And I said this about Dani Ceballos when he played well against Sheffield United. I think that's because that's his level. He's doing well because that's his level of football, playing for Newcastle. And Ceballos, it's playing for a Burnley or a Sheffield United. And I think I'd sell him off. Maybe get 15 million for him. Newcastle has said they want to buy him again. Try and get as much money out of that deal as we can, because Newcastle need whatever they can get right now to try and stay in the Premier League. Yeah,
I mean, if Newcastle come in with a bid, it would be stupid not to sell him. A bit like Maitland-Niles was meant to be sold last summer, and for some strange reason he was kept, wasn't he?
Yeah, Maitland-Niles is another one. He's a great young kid, Well, he's not obviously young now, but when he's been here for years, like years and years, and obviously he's a big Arsenal fan. But he was meant to go on loan to Southampton, where he'd have had great football, mid-table football, that kind of thing. But he refused to play right back, so they didn't want him. He wanted to play in the midfield, which Arsenal didn't want, so we sent him to West Brom, and he's done all right there. He hasn't been great, but again, I think Arsenal will sell him due to the fact that he disobeyed what we asked him, which was to play right back for Southampton. And he was saying things like Arsenal were halting my growth and things like that, and it's like, because you aren't good enough. That's why you can't just get in a team if you aren't good enough. So yeah, he's another one I'd sell. He's just not good enough for Arsenal Football Club right now.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm a manager and I tell you to go play a position, guess what? I expect you to go play in that position, or I'm going to sell you, and that's down to you. But I suppose the sort of things I want to ask is, obviously Balogun signed a new deal that was confirmed, I think last week or a couple of weeks ago. What other young players do you want to see given a chance next season? Because the way I see it is, obviously Saka and Smith Rowe have really been this season with a bit of Martinelli. I expect Balogun will get games next year, but is anyone else sort of in that under 23 bracket that you'd want to see pushed up?
Well, this is when we talk about managers being brought in. This is why I want a manager who can work with youth, and I think again Carlo Ancelotti is quite good with that. We've seen at Everton. He's brought up I think 17-year-old midfielder Isaac Price or something. He brought up, and he was on the bench the other day for Tottenham. So obviously he likes to put the youth team in the first team training and see if any of them have anything about them, and then he calls them up. And I think a lot of Arsenal youngsters can prove that. There's loads to name. I like the likes of Moller, who's another good striker. They call him the next Ibrahimovic. We've got the likes of Balogun, obviously. Martinelli, I think, needs more game time next season. And then there's a few youngsters on loan. The likes of Smith, Ballard could possibly get in the team here and there. And I think for me right now, it's a matter of the manager picking out who obviously gets in. Because I watch a lot of the youth games, but that's not the biggest test. Like we started with Nketiah. He was great on the youth level, and obviously he hasn't lived up to that. So it's up to the manager to see what they can do in training with the first team, maybe give them a go in the Europa League or hopefully the Champions League next season, and obviously then try and implement them into the team a bit more.
Yeah. Velvishwan saying Maitland-Niles is going to go for cheap. I see 12 million off him. You had a chance to sell him for 20. And again, it just goes to show poor management and just sort of sums up Arsenal at the moment, doesn't it?
Yeah. It is what it is. You know, we give these players too many chances. And again, I think it just proves that we aren't run well enough. You know, other clubs with Maitland-Niles, because he's performing, he wasn't performing to a consistent level. They'd have just said, you know what, you're not good enough. We're moving you on. We're going to get someone else in. And we wait till the last minute. You know, we give these players so many chances, and it just never pays off.
Yeah, no, I hear you. What's happening with Nelson? I'm presuming he's on about Reece Nelson.
Well, he was supposed to go on loan with Joe Wilock and Nelson, I think. Joe Wilock and Niles. He had an offer from a Spanish team, but he didn't want to go. He wanted to stay at Arsenal. And I think he's one of these players where he has this thing about him where, I'm playing for Arsenal. I'm a great player. You know, I've got this about me. When he isn't good enough. Again, he's been playing with the under-23s a lot, and he's barely even playing well for them. And now he's been dropped by them. They've sent him back to the first team, and he's just been sat on the bench. So I see him leaving in the summer as well, and I hope he does, because Nelson was a great young prospect maybe 2-3 years ago, and he's just another one. He just hasn't lived up to the hype.
For me, I think a lot of these young players need to get out of their heads who they're playing for. I think a lot of it is, if you're not playing, no matter where you are, there's a reason for that. 9 out of 10 times it's going to be because you're bad, or you're not good enough. And for me, if you've got an opportunity to go play football elsewhere, you should always take it, in my opinion. But the last bit before we get onto a quiz, it seems like Sulz is, I know he was doing something. So it is going to be you on your own. But we were going to bring a 30-second time limit to watch pictures. But being that you're going to be on your own, I'm going to allow you to have as much time as you want looking at these pictures, because they're quite difficult as well. Because I presume that there'll be at least you and Sulz, but Sulz he's left you in the mud. If you get 15 out of 15, though, that would be mega because United had a point deducted for cheating last week. RJ got sent off for foul language. The way he had his camera on for the whole show, and then for like 2 minutes, his camera went off, and suddenly his camera goes back on. And he goes, "Guys, I know this is a long shot, and I know you're going to accuse me of cheating." And then he came out with the right answer, and I'm like, "That's bullshit." Dan Cowley was touted as Crawley was touted as the new Wilshere, but he fell away.
I've never heard of him, to be honest. So obviously he can't be that good.
Yeah, Dan Crawley. I've never heard of him. I've never heard of him at all. It must have fallen away by quite a substantial amount. But you've got Everton at the weekend. Are you confident, or it's going to be a tough game no matter how? But you confident you can get a result?
I'll be honest, no. I think Everton are one of the big teams that were against the Super League a lot. They were quite angry about it. So I think they're going to come out with force. You know, they're playing a Super League team, one of the big teams as well. You know, one of the ones that was coordinating it all. So I think they're definitely going to want to, you know, they're going to come with fire. And I think Arsenal right now are in such a crap state that we're going to struggle. Again, Arteta and the players, we don't even know what their situation is right now. Obviously, we saw Aubameyang tweeting yesterday, and then he deactivated his account, and then he reactivated it. And there was reports saying that because he's still got he's still ill with malaria, he couldn't go to the captain meeting, so Bellerin went, and everything's just so up and down right now. I mean, there's reports already saying that Aubameyang and Lacazette are out for Friday, which means it's going to be probably Nketiah, and that's just. If Nketiah is playing for me, I don't see us scoring enough goals to win the match. So it all depends whether... For me, it depends who's up front. If it's Martinelli, I'm confident. If it's Balogun, I'm confident. But he's going to play Nketiah. We've seen it. You know, Nketiah's been on the bench more than Balogun. Nketiah came on the other day as well. And yeah, it's going to be awful. It's going to be awful either way.
Yeah, I agree. And the fact that Arsenal were one of the main ones getting this all set up and ready. Yeah, Everton's going to come at you, and they're going to. I think they're going to destroy you. Jock saying Arsenal signed Crawley from Coventry a few years ago. Lots of skill, no substance.
Yeah, again, I've never heard of him. I think I remember I've heard his name, but I don't know enough about him to comment on him really.
Well, that's sort of what he's saying, really. Lots of skill, no substance. You don't tend to remember them. Mikel Arteta in the chat, apparently. I won't lose on Friday with my tactics and team selection. We will win.
That's good to hear, Mr. Mikel. That's good to hear.
And when you lose, Arteta, I'll get you on the match reaction. I'll get you on. I'll get you on before you do your interview at Sky. We'll get an exclusive interview. And I'll let some Arsenal fans ask you some questions. But it is that. Oh, actually, what's your score prediction for Everton before we move on?
I'm going to go for an Arsenal win, 2-1. Right. I don't see that happening, but I'm never going to predict we're going to lose. So 2-1 Arsenal.
Yeah, it's just like my team last night lost 6-0, and you just don't predict your team to lose, even though our defence are literally on their summer holidays. Prime example, mid-table, really. Sort of halfway between, well, we're in the middle of the table, no chance of getting relegated or promoted. And the players have just taken their foot off the pedal. And that's the issue you get with a lot of mid-table teams towards the end of the season. They don't have that fight in them. Maybe that's what Arsenal are going through themselves at the moment. What about trying for Ansu Fati from Barcelona? Predominantly a winger, but would be a great inside forward. He would be absolutely fantastic at Arsenal. I just don't see Ansu Fati going to Arsenal.
I mean, his release clause apparently is about 250 million, so I'm all right.
I also don't think Arsenal are going to spend that money to get Ansu Fati. So,
no, definitely not.
Kroenke's give you more than 60 million, and I'll be shocked. Ansu Fati won't leave. Yeah, there's no chance he's leaving. But we are going to do the quiz. Obviously, as I said, normally, well, what we're going to be adding is a 30-second timer, so you'll get to watch it, look at it for 30 seconds. But being as Gooner's on his own, we're going to allow him as much time as he needs to have a look at these. So the first picture is this one.
Starting off with a difficult one already.
I think it may get harder, but I don't want to. I don't want to.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that's the 08 to. I can't remember if it's 09. I think they were 2-year shirts at that point. So I want to say 08 to 010. The shirt, at least. I think that's Hull as well. Yeah, it's going to be a difficult one. I think we're at home for this one. I think, yeah, this is the Emirates. I think we lost. I can't remember if we I think we won one of the games in the season, but I can't remember if we drew or lost the other one. I think we lost it. Yeah, I think we lost it. I'm going to say 2-1 Hull in the Premier League 2008.
Fair shout. Second picture is this one.
Ooh.
When I said it gets harder, I wasn't joking.
Yeah, I can see that.
This may be the hardest one though. This may be the hardest one.
I'm sure this is Blackburn Arsenal in. I'm trying to think what that shirt is. He's wearing a long sleeve just to make it more difficult.
I didn't know if short or long sleeve made a difference.
I'm going to say, I think it's the 2010-11 shirt, if I'm correct. But I don't know. Or maybe it's either the 2010-11 or 11-12. And I'm quite sure this again was at home. I think this was again. I think we lost this game, if I'm correct. I think if it's a 2010, I'm sure we won it. But I think this is the 11-12 game. It depends. I can't tell which stadium it's at because I know we won one of them and we lost the other one. And it doesn't help because both teams are wearing home shirts. But I'm going to say 4-3 to Blackburn, 2011 in the Premier League.
Okay, and the third picture, they do get easier now. This is your third picture.
Yeah, this is definitely easier. Well, it's the 13-14 season against Swan. Is that Swansea? I can't tell what team that is. Wait, is that? I can't tell what team that is. I want to say it's Everton, but I have no idea. Yeah, I have no idea for this one. This is really difficult.
I'll give you a hint. The team is Welsh. That is one hint I'll give you.
I think that narrows it down a bit more.
I don't normally give hints, but I thought I'd be nice. So the hint is it is a Welsh team.
Okay, I think I remember the score now. I think it was 2-2 in the 2-2. 2-2 Premier League 2000 and it's either 13 or 14. I don't know which one. 14. So it was 2014 Premier League 2-2 Arsenal Swansea.
Fair shout. And this is your fourth one.
I think I remember this one. This is Bournemouth in 2018 or 19. I think it's 2018. Yeah, I think this was 2018. I think it was. I think it was the 5-1, but it was 18 or 19. Okay, I'm going to say 2019 5-1 Arsenal in the Premier League.
Okay, and your last picture is this one.
This is again another 2010-11 one, I think. At the Emirates.
I can confirm it is at the Emirates.
It's obviously the Premier League because they're wearing the Premier League patches. I think it's in 2011. And I think it was against, I want to say Birmingham. It's either Birmingham or Ipswich, but I don't think it was the. I have no idea. Yeah, I'm going to say 2011 Premier League against Birmingham, and we lost 2-1.
Okay. So as I said, they were a lot harder. I was expecting two of you at least, but that hasn't happened. But you did a good job. You did a good job. We'll go to some comments, of course. Velvushwan saying, I'm signing Emil Graf. Was it 2-0 this one to Arsenal? 2-0. 0-0, 1-1. 5-1, that's easy. I know this. Nah, it was Camp Nou, of course. It was in the Emirates. Yeah.
Dizzy, man.
Gotta love it. But the first one you said was Hull. 2-1 in the Premier League in 2008. That is all correct. The second one was, in fact, Blackburn. Obviously, it was Blackburn. It was in the Premier League, but it was in 2006, and you won 6-2.
Right.
The third one was against Swansea. It was in 2013, and you won 1-0. The fourth one was Arsenal versus Bournemouth. It was 5-1 in 2019, obviously in the Premier League. The last one was against Bolton. It was 4-1 to Arsenal against Bolton in the Premier League in 2010. So this week, Arsenal, or shall I say Gooner Express, has walked off with 9 out of 15. You were level on points with Chelsea, but obviously Chelsea could now go ahead. But yeah, do you know, Chelsea are going to have difficult ones as well. Don't forget the top of the table, joint top at Liverpool and United, and them boys, they just can't stop arguing. Like they that rivalry is absolutely real. They really don't like each other. But obviously that is the end of the show. Obviously, this week has been put into complete disarray, so I'm not sure what shows are coming up. I will try and do either a ref's view and the tactics one tomorrow. I'll see what goes on tomorrow. But yeah, obviously all shows are back on Friday with Let's Talk Tactics, Let's Talk, and then you've got obviously a Chelsea show, the United show, and the Liverpool show, all on Friday. So make sure you are tuned in for them. Please leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel with notifications on. Go join our Discord server that is in the comments. Go check us out on Twitter at Let's Talk EPL. New stuff coming in the summer. And you'll find when we're going live for some reason very quickly, it always gets posted on Twitter. As Man City nearly go 3-1 up. But yes, where can they find you, Gooner?
I've got a YouTube channel, just the Gooner Express, and then on Twitter, my at's in the name, but it's at Gooner Express _.
Yeah, and all links are in the description, so go check them out, people. Go give Gooner a sub as well on his YouTube channel. As I said, we'll be back tomorrow with something. Not entirely sure what, but we'll be back with something. But a big thanks to everyone who's been watching. We will see you in a bit, and